What's happening, everybody? It's your man, damednydc, host of the Two Mics Up podcast. You know, here today, want to take a few minutes, just kind of talk about, the upcoming election. We're 5 days away. November 3rd is literally around the corner. And I just really want to take a minute to marinate and kind of digest some of the things that have taken place. Um, and like many of you, I watched, but I really didn't watch the second debate. I think or the majority of the American public have pretty much already made up their mind. And this was really just more of a kind of like a paperweight on the table. We kind of tuned in, but I think we already knew in our hearts, who we were going to vote for. But I think really right now, more importantly, I wanted to really take this time to speak to um, those who are undecided. And when I say those who are undecided, I really mean our black and brown kings and queens um, who remain undecided or feel that voting is a waste of time. You feel like right now that you may be disenfranchised, um, and right now I just want to talk about we want to break that mold. We're disenfranchised no more. You know, no one in America is born as a Republican or a Democrat. If you have it on your birth certificate or you know where I can find it on mine, please let me know. I've yet to my 50 plus years, I haven't seen it yet. So I wasn't born one or the other, and it's not on my birth certificate. So, um, many of us come to follow one or the other, and really, this is my belief. These are family beliefs or traditions or ideologies that are shared when we're sitting around at the kitchen table. We're talking to an aunt or an uncle. Um, these things are born out of family traditions and beliefs. Um, and then we take those family traditions and beliefs and we apply it to race in this country. We'll apply it to politics. We'll apply it to sometimes our overall views. What I'm trying to get across is that, we need to understand as Black Americans, Brown Americans, we must separate ourselves from these parties that really underserve or do nothing to better our situation. They really don't represent us. But every 2 years or every 4 years, depending on where you live, the election cycle, they come looking for our vote. It's really important for me that, we understand that moving forward, if we're going to vote, let's step away. Let's clear our minds so we're not jaded. That all of the racial tensions and everything that's going on here in America, let's put it to the side. Let's unpack it and put it in a box. Put it to the side for a minute. We have to understand, you know, a lot of things because history. I'm a big, many of you may know, I'm big on history. So we really need to understand some of the things that go on with this country. From its inception, the unwanted immigrants who falsely call themselves blue bloods that came over on boats, released from the cells of England. These people were put on boats with the expectation that they would be put out to sea and they would die. So England would get rid of, the people that were in these cells who were, the whores, the rapists, the murderers, the scourge of a country, the scourge of a nation. You figure they would put them on a boat, put them out to sea, they'll die. Now, I don't know, you want to call it through grace or despair or whatever. These people made it and made it to a country that was never lost. It already had a civilization, a thriving civilization of people who actually, funny enough, Black and brown America, look similar, or many look just like you or me, or you and I, excuse me. These people came over, they occupied the land and were accepted. Well, they didn't occupy, they were accepted first by these people. They opened up their homes and their countries to only be slaughtered, to be treated as less than human beings in their own homeland, to be blunt. Now, does this story sound proud? Not something I'll be proud about because I know that we're descendants of kings and queens. But this story repeats itself. If you really think about it, this story sets the groundwork of this country, which has and still does perpetuate the same type of violence and animosity to people of color. It was especially against the blacks or the Black and brown community, from being bought and sold, slavery itself, Jim Crow laws, slave catcher laws, segregation, integration, lynching, and today blatant murder. Because we're being murdered in the streets of America. Never thought I would see or even say words like that, but in my opinion, this is what's happening. But this country was built on that groundwork and that framework, and it still exists today. So you have to understand that first. You know, it's easier to deal with an enemy or deal with something when you are educating yourself and educated. By educating yourself, you evolve to know how to deal. I say all of this so that you understand that through all this subjugation, through all this suffering, we're still here. We're still standing. We can't be removed from history. We can't be knocked from our throne. No matter how hard, they've tried, we still survive. This is not the end for us kings and queens. It's not the end. It's actually the beginning. You're probably wondering, what the hell, dang, what the hell are you talking about, bro? What I'm talking about is in regards to your vote. In regards to your vote, you, the black and brown community, the undecided, you're going to have an opportunity to let them know how you feel and where you stand come November 3rd. This is your beginning. It's the first step. By exercising your right to vote, you're taking a part in making tangible changes for people who look like you and me. You have 5 days to educate yourself on the people who are writing laws that impact your community. We all live in different communities, so there's different layers and different levels, but you got 5 days to educate yourself. You want to learn about the slave catchers using written laws to unjustly harass, imprison, and at times kill innocent people that look just like you and me. This is happening. Not making anything up. We all know we experience this. We're seeing this. This is becoming an almost daily occurrence in this country. Educate yourself on, who's running in your districts, your county. You want to start on your local level first because that's where you live. That's impactful to you. Then you worry about on the federal level and the president. That should be your secondary motive. It's important, but locally is where you want to start. I say this sincerely and from my own opinion. For you not to vote, then you're perpetuating the problem. If you don't know who to vote for or what party is best for you, or if you're scared, all of these things are natural because we don't have these discussions in our homes. Many of us come from broken homes. That's fine. But ignorance is bliss. So read, ask questions, educate yourself, take action. Talk to anyone. Hell, if you don't know, send me an email. I'd be happy to share or have a conversation with you about the things that are taking place here in this country. Action is ownership, my brothers and sisters. This is the time for us now to own. I can't make it any clearer. Action. Take action now. By taking action, well, first of all, by getting educated, excuse me, leads to that action. That action gives you empowerment. It empowers you to go ahead and really now feel comfortable and get a better understanding of who you are and where you stand. Over this debate cycle, I decided to strip away the tags of Democrat and Republican. Took that away from the men and women involved that were running for office. I looked for substance. Substance is the attribute or the main attribute that I feel aligned with me first as a person. Secondly, the second thing that I look for was the substance of the individuals and how it aligned with my community. Because my community is where I live. That's important. That's the second thing. The last thing that I looked at from these individuals was the substance that they brought and how I felt that jived or aligned with me living in my community. My community is the third most important factor. These points are critical to me because I believe that at the end of the day, as human beings, you, just like me and your family, are the most important thing to you. Where you live in your community and how you interact with your community is very important. That comes second. Third part that's important to those first two things is the laws and the governance that's taking place, how they're being applied to you and people who look like you within the communities that you live in. Very important. That's third. The current president, in my opinion, he spoke to everything against those three principles. His words incite anger and rage. Anger and rage that I've never seen from anyone running in office, nor as a president, period. It's mind-boggling. It blows my mind. Just for example, look at the incidents that took place in Charlottesville and his comments and how he reacted to that. Look at the situations across America involving anything to do with Black Lives Matters. Now all of a sudden they're a terrorist group. Peaceful protest, but now because they're associated with Black Lives Matter, this is a terrorist organization. Even better yet, his pause and delay in addressing the Proud Boys during the debate. Makes you wonder. But what really struck me the most was him walking across the street, stand in front of the church with a Bible in his hand. Now, I don't know if many of you really understand, or like I said, I'm probably a weirdo. I like history, but history is his story. And this piece of history is eerily similar to Hitler. You can find it on the internet. Hitler did the same thing with a Bible in his hand, making himself the authority over church and state. All against democratic principles, last I checked. But that's for another conversation. This type of rhetoric incites fear, especially to people of color. And as a Black man, really makes me scared of what's going on here in America. This rhetoric incites, our communities to be afraid, but it also empowers law enforcement. And when I say empowers law enforcement, because now they're running on fear, because they're hearing all of this negative rhetoric when it comes to Black Lives Matter. I could be in a suit and I can go out here and get shot today because of something of the fear built up in someone's mind. These fears and tactics are being seen and being played out daily across America to people that look like you and I. Trump is the current president. He never spoke to any clear-cut plans in his debate. He states he's spoken with very intelligent people in their fields of expertise. He says XYZ when it comes to the country's economics or to the pandemic. But he never gives specific dates, times, quotes, people, nothing. He's very good at dancing around the perimeter. He's never specific about his plans to curb the pandemic. It's always the China plague. Yet according to him, he's the greatest president since Lincoln. So my question to you, Mr. President, if you're so great, why haven't you resolved the pandemic problem? And to be more specific, why don't you grow a pair? It's been almost a year now. Some of us may have forgotten. This whole thing started a year ago to what we know in China. But it's here in America. America has the highest rate of death, but you've done nothing to quell that. We're actually this is really the second wave. People talk about over the summer. This is the second wave. It's come back. You've done nothing to fix that problem. Still unresolved. But you're the greatest president since Lincoln. Grow up here. Fix it, solve it. People are dying. Last I checked, you also created the fewest jobs than any other president in the modern era. You really created more jobs by creating more part-time jobs with no benefits for people to have the opportunity to work. But really, at the end of the day, what's two part-time do? What does that do for anybody? You're working twice as hard with no medical benefits, so if you get sick, you're still screwed. Okay, yeah, that's positive. Creating wealth for that 1% really does not mean the economy is doing any better, especially when many of us are still suffering from the effects of the pandemic. The truth remains that you created fewer jobs than any president in the modern era. Job growth has really actually slowed under your presidency. Yeah, you talk about this K shape, V shape. Yeah, that 1% on the top, because he paraded them out in front of you, friends, families, listeners, during the first wave of the pandemic. The Amazons, the Walgreens, the Walmarts, uh, all of these big companies. Yeah, see, they've made billions. He told you exactly who was going to get paid during this. While many of us still struggle to keep food on the table, not to be kicked out of our homes. We're still waiting on stimulus checks. So you've really got to just ask yourself, really, has he really done that much more to make things better for you? Again, this is me just stripping away. This is not a Republican debate. This is not a Democratic debate. This is a candidate debate. This is a person debate. This is a substance debate. These are the things that I'm talking about. As I continue, I'm going to share another little bit of news with you. So they also talk about the GDP. So let me explain to those of you who may not be familiar with the GDP. The GDP is the gross domestic product. They abbreviate that as the GDP. It's the total value of goods and services produced in a country. So the goods and services that we produce here in America. GDP is measured over a specific time frame, such as a quarter or a year. GDP is really an economic indicator used worldwide to show the economic health of a country. So when Trump was running as a candidate, he had specific targets for the U.S. and its growth. As president, he has failed spectacularly to deliver on those promises he made as a candidate. Just to be honest, during his run in 2016, he said that he would be able to provide growth to the American GDP at a rate of 4%, at a rate between 4 and 6%. At the time I last read this, he was only moved at 2.3. Now, 2.3% is not to be something to sneeze at, but that's still short of Obama's best year, which came in his second term, which was almost 3%, by the way. So I'm not calling anyone a liar, but when you say how great the economy has grown, the proof is in the numbers. Now, on the other hand, the other candidate, Joe Biden, he recently took Trump to task on that. And he said that in an interview that Trump is on track to be the first president since Hoover to leave office with fewer jobs than when he came into office. A claim that has a benefit of being true. Now, I'm taking this most recent information that I had at the time of this recording, from an article in the Washington Post on October 2nd, just after the debate. And this information was provided by Fact Checker. So Fact Checker says at the time, October 2nd, 2020, Obama had created 12.5 million jobs. Trump is the worst president in the last 75 years. He has created negative 4.9 million. So it's the math. If I make 12.5 million jobs and you make 4.9, and this is the cut line, we've actually lost 4.9 million jobs. I don't know about your math, but that's not good. Biden, the other candidate, during his debate speeches and talk, he actually provided factual plans. He clearly laid out steps with expectations along the way. Now, many of you like me or others, probably not overly thrilled with Biden and Harris as a ticket. But again, we're talking about substance. What we're looking for, those three things that I talked about, me, my community, and how the laws are applied. Now, Biden and Harris's history, it's not been great. But again, I hope that just like me, you've changed over the last 5 or 10 years, and that you've learned from your mistakes or you've learned from your failures. We can hope, right? Biden explained these plans and how they may or may not impact me, my community, and people who are like me. That is choice. At the end of the day, we're talking about choice. Now I have something to work with when I look at him and his ticket and the current president and his ticket. Whether I agree with the points or not, this is something that's tangible. We need something tangible to hold on to. All this mudslinging and everything that's going on with the derogatory banter and remarks is annoying and it's really unpresidential. It's really embarrassing. But keep in mind, this is done to turn you off. It's like really a first line defense. It's to keep you from voting. I want to turn you off so you're uninterested and that what you just say, what the hell with it, I'm not going to go out and vote. But I think, like I said, we're talking about substance. And I think to dig even further, the most important takeaway from both of these was the vice presidential debate. Outside of the fly, who was really the winner, let's just keep that real. It's really not because of anything other than, Harris stood out. If I had to put the four of them together, she stood out the most. She stood out. She was presidential. She was on point. She came across with plans, actions, and follow through that all touched me. And like I said, this is about substance, those three things that I talked about. And as a man of color, she touched on, my community, me, the government, and how it would play out when it comes to laws being enacted in my community. That substance can't be taken away. As Americans, most of us not even making 1% of the hundreds of millions of dollars of those Amazons and Targets and etc. So I ask you to really sit back and ask yourself, which candidate spoke to your substance? Stop allowing the media to dress up and create a picture in your head or your mind on how you should vote or what you need to do to vote. Substance, in my opinion, is what you need. What candidate or candidates speak to your substance? The other thing is stop giving energy. This whole the Kanye, Ice Cube, 50 Cent. Look, put that on the back burner. These again are situations or anomalies where, they're there to distract you from the bigger picture, voting. Just let all of that go to the wayside. We can circle back to them later on. We had to deal with them after. Like no other time. It's really incumbent on us to make a collective stand. Don't hold back. We're being assaulted and attacked and outright murdered at every turn, every chance, every time you turn on the news, social media, it's happening. The system is broke. We know it. And at times, I know you feel defeated. But never get discouraged. The president says he will not go quietly if he loses this election. That's that rhetoric. And this, again, is to discourage you and to get you all worked up. Well, now it's time to show your impact on what you're going to do when you come to elect the next president. Just so many of you know, and I had to go dig, my wife and I had this conversation. The president's term ends at noon on January 20th, 2021. This was made clear and has been made clear by the 20th Amendment. It creates a hard stop. The sitting president, his term ends at noon on January 20th. Now, he wants to be a 5-year-old kicking and screaming. It's clear. He has to go. All right. So what happens at that point, if we're still trying to count ballots and votes because of mail fraud, voter fraud, we don't know what this guy is going to try to throw out here. We just don't know what's going to happen. But at noon on the 20th of January, his term is over. Win, lose until we can figure it out. And the Speaker of the House becomes the new chief executive officer or the president, at least for a time until we get this all figured out. So whether he likes it or not, win or lose, his term will come, at least, if not turn into a pause on the 20th. So what's going to happen after that is really unknown. But that we know is certain. So if nothing else, make up your own mind. This election is really your opportunity to use your power for change. Once this election, though, is over, I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself. As a Black community, we need to remove ourselves from the table and move as one block. one unit with a plan, not only for yourself now, because we've done everything that we can. We've educated, we've empowered ourselves, and we've impacted ourselves for this coming election. But now we want to take those same things now after the election and move forward as one united block. You know, our community really needs all of our leaders to come together, all of our Black leaders. We need we need some type of roundtable for discussion because so many of us are we're on different paths, but I believe our paths all lead to one goal. So we need to be organized to have an impact. You know, just by looking at what's going on in our society. The right wing is their theory is it's moral failing, you're a hedonist, your party's too hard, or the left wing theory is you take over, your brain is being hijacked. Um, we've created a society where we have a significant number of our fellow citizens who cannot bear to be present in their lives. Where we're really having a tough time. This pandemic, the economy, and everything that's going on is making it hard for people to be present in their own lives. And a lot of times we walk around in a daze and in a haze. But what's really happened is we've created a very individualistic and isolated world where a lot of people hide behind made up beliefs and ideas. I'm going through all of this really to say is then, you might be asking, well, how do we go about making a change after this election cycle? And I really sat down and I went through maybe about, you know, I don't know, 7 or 8 things that we can do to make a tangible plan. And I'm going to kind of run through these as quick as I can. And this plan is really starts with yourself. Like I said earlier, we're going to start with you as the individual because I just touched on that. We're highly individualized right now, but if we're going to start there and move to a collective, these same tangibles can be used once you educate and get yourself in gear to be individualized. Now we have to be able to socialize. But if we're all coming with like minds, then we're all saying the same thing and we can all understand and communicate with each other as one. And this is really important in my opinion. So one, with this election cycle, one, or any future election cycle, after we break away from the table, one, you want to ask yourself where you registered to vote. If you're not, get registered. Once you get registered, then you find out where you go to vote. And every location is different. I know here in Virginia, they've got early voting, early registration, early voting locations, and different things of that nature. I know here is Virginia.gov where you can get a lot of information. But the same way you sit down and you search all the foolishness on social media, take an hour a day to educate yourself on what's going on in your community. This thing can do the same. Second, while you're doing that, once you find out where you get voted or where you can register to vote and how you get registered, educate yourself on about the people in your district running for office. The most important thing is find out what platforms are they running on. Platforms meaning what are they supporting? What kind of laws are they supporting? What actions are on the floor and how they impact you as a person of color, how they impact you in your community and how those laws are being applied. Goes back to the 3 principles of substance that I talked about earlier. Then after you ask all of those things, again, when it's time to vote, you go out and vote. Once you've done that, so now after you've done these 2 things partially, the last thing in that second thing is now you take this information because now you've empowered yourself, educate others who look like you. This is key. Have these conversations, continue these conversations. Once you've educated others who look like yourself, again, you continue to educate yourself about the people running for office on a federal level. So now you've already done your local level. So like I said earlier, now we want to move to a federal level. People who are running again for Congress, your House of Representatives, your senator, your president. Again, what platforms are they running on? How does their platform impact people who look like me, my community, and the execution of laws within my jurisdiction? Again, this all applies on all levels. But now we've done this in increments and now you've moved up. This is the 3rd level. Again, once you've done all of those things, when it's time to go vote. And again, we're going to follow that up by educating other people who look like you and I. Again, now we're networking. Our circle through these first three steps should be getting wider and wider. And now you should be having some dialogue coming back and forth. This is important for us to grow. After the aftermath of this election, or step for any election, continuous education of the people elected or running for the opportunity to govern your community. Again, so now we're taking it back down a level. So now you've gone through all of these things. And now again, you want to keep educating yourself because in some places it's a 2-year cycle. Most places you'll see a 4-year cycle of people running for office. You want to continuously keep track of these people who are running for office, who are going to impact people who look like you, impact the community that you live in, and impact the laws that are going to be applied to the community that you live in. Most importantly, people who look like you. Now you have a chance, though, now as you're getting more comfortable, hold these people accountable. In one of our episodes, we had Qasim Rashid, our Virginia, he was running for Congress, here in District 1. And one of the things that he said that I take and I hold, because this is where a lot of our elected officials have gotten lost. He's a public servant. They are here to serve the public. That means serve you and I. So hold them accountable. You can hold them accountable by showing up to any town halls. I'll break it down even further. Show up to your school board meetings where your kids go to school. That's important. Let them know that your kids are loved, that you're in their lives, you're involved, and you want to know what the hell is going on in these schools and in your towns that are going to affect people who look like you and how they're trying to apply laws to people who look just like you and I. This is very important. Write them, call them. Let them know, when they're failing. The promises that they made for you to go out and vote for them, well, you're failing. You're not meeting my expectation. You have every right to do so because, again, they're public servants. It's very important. That's a very huge part to make an impact. Contact them via social media, posts, whatever. Put them on blast. Everybody's on this here now. I'm pretty sure your representative, your town hall supervisor, your sheriff, I'm pretty sure there's a page somewhere. Let them know. Let them know how disgruntled you are or how unsatisfied you are. Make them uncomfortable. Make them have to go to work. Make them have to address the issues that we're dealing with every day. Lastly, in that point number 4, evolve in taking ownership of your Blackness within your community. Now, when I say that, that means to become more involved and engaged with other Black and brown businesses within your community. Support them. When I say support, I don't mean go in there and if you have bad service or it is took too long to go ahead and get you silverware, don't go on Yelp or any one of these other sites and tear the business down. Pull the owner to the side or the manager or whoever. Give them an opportunity to understand where you're coming from. Let them know why you're dissatisfied. Then go back and let them know, hey, I'm going to come back. And give them a second opportunity to correct the failure. Give each other the same courtesy that you would to a white establishment or a large corporation. We have to work together, but take ownership and invest in your community, your Black businesses within your community. It's very important for us to survive and moving forward in these tangible ways. 5. Point number 5, we want to evolve. Right? So I just talked about how you take that first step in evolving. So now you continue to become involved, not only now with the businesses, but with events that are being held and promotion of Black businesses and events within your community. That could be by volunteering your time and your services to other Black and brown businesses. That could be providing financial support. That could be positively spreading their message or their word on social media. Again, get out of your comfort zone and get involved. 6, invest. Now, this is where it's going to be a little harder, but, we have to get involved and get educated about, our Black banks and financial institutions. About a month ago, our 2 largest Black banks merged together to make one mega Black bank. Kudos to them. I believe Killer Mike just opened up a Black financial institution. I'm still getting educated on those, but seek them out. Support them, represent them, because we're going to need that if we're going to move as one united block to move away from the table. Seek out Black realtors and realty companies. Buy Black land as a collective. Create generational wealth. Through property. You know, get into that mindset. Instead of some people, I seen a post that I need to go back and read and get more information, but basically it was something like this. There's a gentleman out here who buys property in rundown neighborhoods, 40, $50,000 a pop. Yeah, he makes maybe $800-900 a month on the rental. But he takes that and then that's how he pays for his car and all of his luxury. So if you really think about it, because many of us out here in the Black community do it backwards. Some of you out here probably paying $700-800 for a BMW or 7 Series, brand new, but you're living probably in a rundown apartment. No disrespect. That's just how we move. But if you took that same money, because if you can afford to get a car loan, then you can afford to get a house loan. Go buy you some rundown property, put some people in it, make some financial money to go ahead and pay off, your car loan. Just things like that. So we've got to get educated on how to do that and create generational wealth. And then we want to create financial freedom and support within our community for other Black businesses in our area. And this is done by creating extended networks. I have a great network of friends and people that I associate with, and this is what we have to do to improve and create that type of financial freedom. Next, like I said, you want to go and really build your extended network. You want to build brick by brick, block by block, community by community, state by state, and country by country. And yes, I said country by country. We are Pan-African, and as people of African descent, we must learn to share in common goals to become unified. We're not just Black Americans here. There are Africans everywhere across this globe. And we need to become unified in the struggle because this affects us. Although we're living it here in America, but there's so much more that's going on in other countries across the world that we don't even understand and we don't see that our brothers and sisters are going through and suffering through. So this becomes a bigger issue. So this understand is bigger than what we see here. This is a Pan-African effort. Last in that point, once we have those financial networks and freedoms, we can now build an infrastructure. This infrastructure is important. We can go ahead and build our own schools. We can build hospitals. We can have grocery stores. We can expand our Black banks and financial institutions. This infrastructure is really important to our survival because now we've pushed away from the table. That, my friends, those are tangible actions and plans that I see that we can put in place to have our leaders sit down with and discuss how we move forward. And that's really all I have, at this time. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was insightful. Until we speak again, I just want you all to know that we are magnificent and beautiful people. We were created by design. This was no flaw. We are givers of life, and that's a whole nother conversation. But we are givers of life to all things created. We are exceptional men and women born for greatness. Never forget that. In the words of, Buju and his song, Till I'm Laid to Rest, it's time for us to organize, centralize, and come as one. Stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.